Before the highlights, before the Showtime Lakers, before the Boston Dynasty, there was a league on life support. The NBA wasn't glamorous, it wasn't global, it wasn't even popular. A league once filled with promise was suddenly drowning, losing money, losing fans, and losing its identity. Game attendance was collapsing. Television viewership was so low that the NBA Finals were sometimes shown on tape delay. Imagine the biggest basketball event of the year, airing at midnight. The league needed hope. It needed life. It needed heroes. And then, as if scripted by fate, two young men stepped into the spotlight. Two opposites, two forces, two players destined to collide in a way the sports world had never seen. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. A rivalry so powerful, so emotional, so undeniably legendary. It didn't just change basketball, it saved the NBA. College warfare, the beginning. The year was 1979. Michigan State versus Indiana State. Magic versus Bird. On one side, Irvin Magic. Johnson, 6 feet 9 inches, smiling, charismatic, electrifying. A point guard who played with joy, improvisation, and flair. On the other, Larry Bird, the silent assassin from French Lick. Disciplined, precise, cold-blooded, and unstoppable. Their clash created the most-watched college basketball game in history. Not because of the schools, not because of the coaches, but because of the names on the floor, because of the contrast, because of the destiny forming in real time. Magic represented freedom, creativity, showmanship. Bird represented structure, toughness, perfection. They weren't just players, they were symbols. In that single championship game, the world caught a glimpse of something new. A rivalry so iconic, it was destined to spill far beyond college courts. Magic would win the game. But Bird would never forget that defeat. And the world silently prepared for part 2. The NBA needs heroes. When Magic and Bird joined the NBA in 1979 and 1980, they didn't enter a thriving empire. They entered a crisis. The NBA was shattered by low attendance. Games were half full. Fans were disengaged. Sponsors weren't interested. The league was struggling with its image, and television executives had little faith in its future. Players were incredible, but the league lacked a storyline, a narrative to hook the world. It needed something powerful. It needed something personal. And then, Magic Johnson went to the Lakers. Larry Bird went to the Celtics, the two most historic franchises in basketball. Each got one half of the greatest rivalry ever created. Suddenly, the league had a heartbeat. Lakers versus Celtics was no longer a game. It became a battlefield of ideologies. Flash versus fundamentals. Hollywood versus hard work. Showmanship versus sharpshooting. The West Coast smile versus the East Coast silence. Every time Magic touched the ball, fans expected fireworks. Every time Bird touched the ball, fans expected precision. The NBA didn't just gain 2 stars, it gained its identity. Showtime versus perfection. Magic Johnson didn't just play basketball, he performed it. Fast breaks that blurred past defenders. Laughing while throwing no-look passes. A 6 foot 9 inch point guard rewriting what was possible. He made basketball feel like a movie. Bright, loud, joyful, unpredictable. This was the birth of Showtime. And then you had Larry Bird. No theatrics, no celebration. Just pure, devastating skill. Fadeaways off one leg. Step-backs before step-backs were cool. Rebounds through pure grit. And trash talk so brutal it destroyed your confidence. Bird didn't just want to beat you, he wanted to crush you mentally. Together, their rivalry pushed both to levels they could never reach alone. Magic forced Bird to be more creative. Bird forced Magic to be more disciplined. They studied each other. They obsessed over each other. They sharpened each other. Between 1980 and 1989, one of these two played in every NBA Finals except one. And together, they revived a dying product, turning it into a must-watch global event. The rivalry turns into respect. For years, they barely spoke. The competition was too fierce. The pressure was too heavy. The stakes were too real. They were enemies, but enemies who needed each other. Then came the moment that changed everything. 1986. A Converse commercial. Magic Johnson was invited to Larry Bird's home in French Lick, Indiana. Magic expected formality. But Bird was Bird. Simple, direct, honest. They talked, they laughed, they ate lunch at Bird's kitchen table. They shot hoops in his backyard. Something human happened that day. Something real. Magic saw Bird not as the villain of his story, but as a mirror, a reflection of the same obsession, the same hunger, the same desire to be the best, and Bird saw Magic not as the enemy, but as the only person who truly understood the weight of their rivalry. From that day forward, the greatest rivalry in sports became one of the greatest fry. Saving the NBA. The impact was undeniable because of Magic and Bird. TV ratings skyrocketed. National interest returned. The NBA Finals became must-watch television. Sponsorships exploded. The league went global. Superstars gained international recognition. Kids across the world dreamed of playing pro basketball. They transformed a struggling league into a cultural force. And by the time Michael Jordan entered the NBA, he didn't walk into chaos. He walked into the empire that Magic and Bird built. With their rivalry, Jordan was the future. But Magic and Bird were the foundation, the legacy. The NBA didn't need stars. It needed storytellers. It needed a clash so compelling the world couldn't look away. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird delivered exactly that. Their rivalry brought competitiveness, passion, contrast, and respect. Everything a wounded league desperately needed. They didn't just entertain, they resurrected. Without Magic and Bird, there is no global NBA, no sold-out arenas, no billion-dollar TV deals, no rise of Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, or Curry. Their rivalry wasn't just legendary, it was necessary. Because sometimes, greatness isn't about winning championships. Sometimes, greatness is about saving the game you love.